7.0.6 and said that it was a security update. And according to documents that Edward Snowden released, the NSA gained the ability to intercept encrypted iPhone traffic back in October 2012. That's why we had the security update recently. Did someone at Apple add a backdoor for the NSA?
I have no idea. My first suspicion is no. My first expectation is no, they didn't. However, could there be maybe somebody, it was like an extra line of code that they identified that got in there. Maybe it was done deliberately, maybe it was done accidentally. I'm not going to try to guess.
Coding mistake?
It could be a small coding mistake. The funny thing is, small little mistakes can create bugs that have huge impact and effect in your life. And I'm hoping that Apple is the purest of all the companies. Still, the one that would fight government having the ability to intercept things like your messaging. However, I also think back to a time in my life, maybe it was 15 years ago, a long time ago, maybe even longer, and I sat down with PGP, the encryption software for your email that was done by a third party, Phil Zimmerman's company, and it was trustable. I trust them. And if I had PGP and my friend Alex had PGP, when I sent him a message encrypted with his public key, he got it. I know that nobody in between could possibly intercept it. And I remember with PGP though, it was really fun to go on and say, hey, let's look up and see on the big public key server if Bill Clinton has a key.
Yeah.
And there was a Bill Clinton, and he lived in Finland, it said. So what I did was I created a whole bunch of these women that he was supposed to be associated with. Paula Poundstone and Jennifer Flowers and all these names, and they were all authenticating his key as being the right one. But then I found out that when you search for Bill Clinton, you didn't find those others. You only got him, and it didn't show. It showed some blank names were authenticating him. So then I went back and I changed it to Jennifer Flowers, Bill Clinton's friend Flowers. Yeah. And then when you search for Clinton, you'd get all of these women too that were vouching that he was the real one. But that was for fun. You gotta include fun in everything you do. But if Apple and IBM, what it came in my mind was if Apple and Microsoft have decided, we're building right into our operating system, our key email programs, PGP is a part of our device, and every single email in the world to this day would be encrypted. You know what? I used to send messages in an envelope that you'd lick it shut, and the fact that somebody got it and it was still sealed meant nobody had seen it. Yeah, there are ways that it could have been steamed open, but only under the right authentication, the right validation. And now every single message we send is email. It's on wires on the internet, and we have no idea how secure it is, if it's secure.
Yeah, but doesn't that worry you, Steve? You're talking about sending information the old way, snail mail, for example. You know, there was a report out recently that EADS and Airbus, they're so worried now about corporate espionage and about their software being attacked and tapped, that when they have high security plans, they send it via paper, via courier. Don't you think that's a sad commentary on the tech world that you helped give birth to?
Yeah, but there are possible solutions. And I was just throwing one out. Basically, if we just put PGP into the major computer platforms and it became very common and known, it's a public key, private key encryption system. There are others for temporary conversations like phone calls and videos that the keys are made up on the fly, every transaction. We could have a lot more secure world, but even the computer companies seem to not want to go that way and just build it in from the ground up. And if they build it in, they're going to build it in under auspices that we don't know if they put in their own little back doors.
Who is going to take the lead, though, to protect us? I mean, who do you want to see take the lead?
Apple, obviously.
Yeah, but you don't see that coming, though, do you?
I don't see it coming. You just got to put one little button in your email program and the code to do it, and I don't know. I don't see it coming.
Well, but
I haven't seen it for 15 years.
Yeah, but don't you get on the phone, Steve? Don't you get on the phone and call the CEO and say, come on, guys, get your act together, and let's be trailblazers.
I used to do that when Jobs was there.
Yeah.
And he would fix things pretty quick. But the trouble is, once he fixed something for me, and it took out a feature that I desperately needed, so I said, no, I don't do that. I don't even call up and say, hey, can I have one of the new products? I'd rather stand in line and buy it like a normal person.
What about the cloud?
What about the cloud?
Everyone's talking about.
That's that whole problem. Do you own what you have? Is there the secret code inside of your phone that does special things? That means you don't really own it. I mean, you should buy something and totally have control that it is what you think it is and nothing more. What am I missing?
Wait a minute.
The cloud.
Wait a minute. What was that?
The cloud.
That's the Scottish cloud.
Yes, how the cloud operates, where your data is being stored under, when you say, okay, I agree, yes, I want this, you click all those buttons so fast because you don't have the time to read all the legalese. You've signed away all your rights because it's a contract.
Yeah.
And they wrote, and you didn't have a part in writing the contract, so the other side always has it. Anything goes wrong, it's not our liability, it's not our problem, and it's our ownership. Even if your photos are here, we don't guarantee you'll get them back. No, I think that human beings, the normal end users, the average guy in the home, has really lost out to the powerful and the wealthy.
Well, you're in Europe. Yesterday, you got applause there. The European Parliament yesterday approved sweeping new data protection legislation that could become law in all 28 EU countries. It includes the right to be forgotten. It increases fines on companies that give private data to outside EU companies.
And this is great. This is all great stuff. The EU is going to be ahead of the United States in most cases for that sort of thinking.
And do you think the United States needs to start copying Europe for a change?
Well, I wish they would. Yeah, absolutely. I think they should get ahead of Europe even. I would love to see, Tim Berners-Lee's proposal, I'd love to see some work get going on that for every country in the world. Thinking about what can a Bill of Rights be, that what can be done in a product legally, I mean, and people say that's government regulation. Well, our Bill of Rights in the United States is regulation, but it's regulation of other people who aren't allowed to regulate you. Our Bill of Rights says laws will not be passed that will abridge your freedom of speech and things like that. And that's really, I mean, if every single message, I can't send a message to my wife saying my favorite color is blue, and I want it to be private. And I just feel like this is open to the world now. Everything is shared. I guess we got used to that with the social web too.
Did you imagine that back in the 1970s when you were creating the personal computer? I mean, did you imagine?
Did we imagine we'd ever have cellular phones, or did we imagine that we would have enough memory in a computer to hold a song? No. So no, we didn't think way out. Science fiction writers, of course, thought about computers once they become kind of conscious, but they're not there yet. Computers aren't really conscious. Would all the networks be tapped and all that? Well, you had your story in 1984, and Brave New World. We read books when we were young, and gave us a lot of values, but those values didn't seem to matter. You can't stop technology. The changes in technology, they come like a huge steamroller, and you can't stop it. Get out of the way. Best thing to do is get out of the way and let it happen. That's change, and we can't. It's taken us where we are. And every time you get change, you're afraid. Oh my gosh, look what we lost from what we had before. But the new generation says, hey, this is just the great world we're growing in. This is the way it should be.
A lot of political leaders here in Europe, they look to you also for policy guidance. You're an engineer, you're not a politician, but they look to your expertise.
Well, they should, because what politician has ever moved the world forward, for sure, instead of backwards? Everyone will argue whether it was forward or backwards. Every single technology company leader, the CEOs of the technology companies like Tim Cook, they're the ones that are more important because they only take the world forward, and we never go back.
Why aren't you running for office?
I'm not political. I have this philosophy against voting. It goes back to Vietnam War days and stories I don't want to tell.
Okay, but you don't have faith in politicians to protect our rights as technology is
some are trying, but generally no. They're all pretty much bought off for the most part. What do? They just banned selling Tesla automobiles. I have a Tesla, and I bought it online, and I picked it up at the factory. And now in New Jersey, they're not allowed to sell Tesla cars because it doesn't go through a third-party dealership that makes extra money on the way. What are they doing? Look at the consumer. The consumer, not the seller, not the manufacturer, not the businessman. Look at the consumer and make things better for all of us. So why is it?
Let me challenge you a little bit.
It's political. It's all political. They got paid off.
You have so much influence in the world. how can you afford to be apolitical? I mean, you could run for office and get elected, and you could really affect change. You could be the smart Arnold Schwarzenegger
You could
of California.
put computers into schools and make them better theoretically, and yet people aren't coming out smarter because we put them into the same system that always existed, that has its flaws and its
But couldn't you
problems.
change that if you were a politician? The school system?
No. One politician, you're stuck in the political system that's so screwed up you wouldn't be able. You know, there have been one or two politicians here and there throughout time that try to make real good moves, and they kind of can get nowhere. They're loners. They're
All right, let's not talk
Good
about
people,
politicians. Let's talk about people, infamous people. Edward Snowden. Is he a hero or is he a traitor?
Well, he's the hero to me. He might be a traitor to other people, and I understand their reasons for thinking that way. But I have very strong beliefs in freedom. And when I was young, it was Cold War, United States, Russia, that communism, they watched all the people very closely. They reported them. People could be disappeared into secret prisons. And we had freedom in the United States, and it was based on our Constitution and our Bill of Rights. And I believed in that. And one after another, I see those Bill of Rights crumbling and everything. And where's the freedom going? And here's a guy that must have felt like me. I believe Edward Snowden believed he wanted that country to still have the freedoms and caring about the people, and the rich, powerful government, military, all that isn't as important as the normal people. And they were doing illegal things that went against our Constitution that gave us freedom. I believe he believed it in his heart the way I would, and he had the guts and the courage to give up his life, to sacrifice his life for a principle. I had been in his position and had been that courageous to make that sort of a move. I'm one of the founders of the EFF, by the way.
Yeah,
I should say a little bit.
Do you think Edward Snowden should be allowed to return to the...
Absolutely. And he's been vindicated. There have been legal judgments over and over, and the NSA, and by the way, we have other three-letter agencies in the United States, the CIA and the FBI and others, and they're probably all doing similar things, you know, and they're probably saying, good thing the NSA has taken the heat. But, you know, I don't they'll cover up those loopholes, but they've already been shown to be really in violation of our Constitution. What happens is a lot of the politicians that have kind of gotten there, you know, maybe because they're highly paid, maybe from the religious right, a lot of politicians pass law after law after law that go against the Constitution. And then in court, when people like Snowden come up, they say, oh, no, what the government was doing is according to this law number 5, law number 8, law number 10. But then it's 10 years later, the Supreme Court finally rules those laws are unconstitutional. The Constitution pervades. It's a long process to get to justice.
You know, I live here in Germany. I've interviewed a lot of German politicians, one in particular by the name of Christian Ströbele. He's with the Green Party. He visited Edward Snowden in Moscow. He wants Edward Snowden to be granted asylum here in Germany. Do you think Germany should give Snowden a home?
I would probably vote for it, but I don't know enough about the total German situation to give a firm answer, but I would be for it, I'm sure. I tried to go to Moscow myself to see Snowden. I was trying to formulate.
Have you talked to him?
I may have. Very unusual. This is so unusual. I can't even believe it. I was in Moscow.
Yeah.
And I was at an Apple museum, some private invitation thing. There's about 30 people there, and I'm taking pictures with them and meeting them all, maybe 20, maybe as few as 20 people. And a guy came up and he looked just like Snowden. I was surprised. He's so young. After I took a picture, I said, you could be mistaken for Snowden or something. He turned away. I never saw him again. I never saw him before or after that picture. I kept looking for him. And it could have been. Because I was seeing positive things in the Russian press, too, about what he'd done, but, you know.
Have you been to Colorado lately?
Yes, I have. Why?
I thought so. Okay. Has he tried to contact you?
No, although people that claim that they were in touch with him have and said they're trying to set up some meeting and he would maybe like me to be in a roundtable discussion. So it's possible.
And you would meet with him if that could be
Oh,
facilitated.
absolutely, absolutely.
Turkey's Prime Minister, Erdogan, wants to ban Facebook and Twitter. He said, and I'm quoting him here, social media is the biggest menace to society.
Well, that's true, but you can't stop it. I was recently in Beijing, and I was shocked that Facebook didn't work there. I didn't know this stuff. I thought the internet was just wherever the internet went, you kind of had everything.
Do you watch the
So
news?
I had to use a VPN.
Do you watch the news?
I don't watch television. I read, and I don't know to what extent they have filtering of the internet in China. Now I found out a lot of important things were missing, but you get around that with a VPN anyway.
Right.
But I was shocked because when the internet first started, I got into it so early. I've got a 3-letter .com, woz.com. I don't use it because I'm more like a nonprofit, woz.org. But I have it. And I got in so early, and it's like, this was a breath of fresh air. The internet, anybody anywhere in the world can publish things if they know how to make a server. And other people can see what they publish. Academics can publish articles that you'd have to have a brain, you'd have to buy a third-party profit-making book to have the information before. This was a breath of fresh air. We aren't controlled. We aren't controlled by the forces of control, which are governments. And now it's like the internet gives them the ability to control us more tightly than ever before in our life. Every bit of communication is now controlled by every government and monitored and everything else. And it's bad.
When Erdogan when it was announced that he wanted to ban Facebook and Twitter, we announced that on my news show, and I got tweets like crazy from people in Turkey saying, please report that this is how you can bypass these blocks. Do you think that people will always be able to bypass these blocks, or will the technology progress to the point that governments will be able to build a secure wall?
Yes and no. A lot of times people will be able to bypass them, but if it ever becomes like enough people are bypassing it, the governments will make the wall more secure. And it might be a little battle throughout time. In the old days, we had ham radio. When you had a disaster in the world, ham radio operators could get on and contact and send messages far away. And there's still nothing that can really restrict a ham radio operator. There are no laws in place. They're not as trapped as the internet world is. So it's just a shame that we can't have anybody in the world I can be in direct communication with. And that's gone. That's thinking of that kind of freedom. We're a whole new country that doesn't have a country. It's like we're outer space. Nobody owns outer space. The moon, nobody owns the moon. The internet, nobody owns the internet. Now the internet is just totally owned in a sense of we're controlled by it. Yeah.
Kenneth Roth, the head of Human Rights Watch, he told me recently that access to the internet should be considered a basic human right in the 21st century. Do you agree?
Like probably everybody in this room, I agree. Absolutely. And basic human right is education. We have a few of them. Obviously, you consider things like the right to drive a car and things like this pretty much as rights. And they talk about, is it right or a privilege? Well, there was a declaration, I forget what year it was, 39, a long time ago. Every major country in the world signed the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights. I got it passed out to me. I went to an Amnesty International concert once, and Bruce Springsteen was playing. They gave me a little booklet, and I carried it in my backpack to this day of that declaration. It's so important to me. And they didn't have internet in the old days, but that's our main factor of communication. I think broadband should be a human right, and everybody in the country should have it. Countries like Australia are trying to work to bring it to every person. If who gets elected doesn't change.
I mean, are you worried though that the internet is going to become fragmented, and it's 25 years, the World Wide Web is 25 years old this week. Are you worried that when we're talking about the World Wide Web being 50 years old, that we're going to be talking about national webs and no longer the World Wide Web?
I don't know. I've never thought about that. I wouldn't even want to think about it. No, I think it's always going to be worldwide. We've got too many friends every part of the world now that we've formed. You can't have schools contacting other schools and having their students communicate directly and immediately with schools in Africa. You can't turn that stuff back.
When you look back on your career, is there anything that you regret that you would have done differently in terms of the technology that you've given us?
No, because my philosophy, my personality from the time I was 20 years old was not to look back and think about, I wish I'd done something different. I'm not going to look at it like having regrets. No. I wouldn't even look at divorces that way.
Really? That reminds me.
Really? No.
Okay.
You know what? If somebody's bad to you, you're good to them. If you love somebody, you will love them forever. You'll never let it go away. I got a lot of really good philosophies. You're always forgiving and you're not judgmental.
I mean, I have to ask you too, since you're talking about divorces, relationships, you were on Dancing with the Stars, you went out with Kathy Griffin for a while, right?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, brilliant comedic mind. And I like comedy, because comedy is the heart of creativity. Being able to make up new jokes. She makes up a statement, one after another, and they're all jokes.
So you loved her for her mind?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Yeah, I love that. And I've been on television, I've been on The Big Bang Theory. Really great, because I got to see how television is made. I am so lucky. I consider myself so lucky in my life, and so does my wife.
What was harder, founding a computer company or going on Dancing with the Stars?
Well, you know, that's like asking somebody who grew up their whole life to be an archer. What was harder, you know, being able to get to the Olympics for archery, or running a marathon? Their legs weren't conditioned for the marathon. So in that sense, Dancing with the Stars is harder. Everything I did in the computer days, I was so excelled at designing. Anything I could think of in my head, I could design products that put the signals out, and it became very easy for me in a very short time to design almost anything. I mean, when I was in high school, I could design any computer in the world in 2 days. So when it's that easy, it's like you give me free time at night, I'm going to sit down and design computers. So when I'm doing it for a company, Apple, it's just like I'm doing what I would do without a company.
Do you still do that now? I mean, at home, do you sit down and say, I want to create something?
No, I don't. I really want to. Yeah, I say it all the time. I want it every single minute of every day, and I can't do it anymore. And it unfortunately goes back to part of those personal philosophies you live your life by. And one of them was to never close myself off, like executives at companies do. I won't answer the phone, so I'm wide open. And the internet has given me thousands of emails a day, and I don't have time in my life. And I get invited to be in great places like this. So I don't have time left to be the sort of designer and engineer I was back then. Yes, I do think about products, how they could be improved, how they should have something new that might make them work better. I'm even with a company, Fusion.io, and I do some of that thinking, but it's not the same type as when I was the direct engineer actually creating things. You know, a lot of people want to start companies these days. They have ideas. But ideas on paper aren't worth much to me because of how I started. You get a working model, even if it's a virtual model on a TV screen, that you can interact with and really show people. You'll own a lot more, and you'll make a lot more from it.
What's your mission now? I mean, I've seen interviews with you where you said, you know, creating a personal computer was the culmination of your life. I've seen that quote of you. So that was a long time ago.
I never use the word culmination.
Okay, but then that was a bad reporter.
Yeah, oh yes, and reporters.
You have to watch out for reporters, yeah.
Over and over, you know what, I say things and they twist it to, the headline sounds the opposite, because they're trying to make themselves the modern columnists, bloggers do. They want to get noticed, and you get noticed with a striking comment that Wozniak said this, and it's usually just some down-to-earth thinking if you really read what was inside of it. So I'm used to that.
So what's your mission now then? I mean, when you get up in the mornings now, I mean, you travel a lot. I mean, what do you want to do now?
I think about my technology evolution when I was in high school and university. Those days were so important, buying every computer manual, studied it, I cared about it so much. I would work out halfway through the book, answering every question before class even started. I loved it so much. So I want to inspire young people, especially, and be kind of maybe a role model, inspire them, convince them that, you know, if you're a geek, you're an outsider socially, you still have great things you can do in the world. So I'd love to, that's probably number one if I had a mission. But I don't really have a mission. My mission is to enjoy life and have fun. The day I die, I'm going to judge myself by how many times did I laugh and smile versus how many times did I frown. So I have ways to magically work both of those.
Have you made it?
I love my life right now very, very much. You know, even going around places like this, just being on stages. Yeah, I love it. And you know, the day I quit, that'll be a happy day too.
Have you made it cool to be a computer nerd?
Oh gosh. I think that happened not because of a person. You know, I'm kind of even an unusual computer nerd because of Apple's success. I've been able to kind of get one level beyond it. Like if you look at the founders of a company like Google, you kind of become more social in the world and more of a normal person. But I care so much about the geek that I was back when I didn't have any hope of a girlfriend or anything like that. I had to spend all my hours designing stuff.
But now women love guys who can
I don't know that I agree with that. I do not think young women really love geeks ever. Sometimes they admire a little bit of a certain geek that, certain elements of them, but I don't think it's that much stronger.
But you know what really gets their
I don't think they're really the popular heroes with the girls.
Do you know what really gets their attention now though? Is when you do selfies that get retweeted thousands of times. So you know what?
Okay.
I'm gonna pull out. Oh my God, what do we have here? What's going on here, gentlemen?
We're going to have a Comic-Con in San Jose, California. We need you.
Well, we're going to do a selfie here. I don't know, he's got some kryptonite in his pocket. Let's do a picture. Ready? 1, 2, 3. There we go. Now, I'm going to tweet that, and we're going to see if we can beat Ellen on the Oscar night. Come on, you want to do it? Let's try to do it.
Okay.
Okay, let's do it.
That selfie was incredible.
Let's see what we can do. Hold on, I mean, come on. You got to have a dream, right? All right, hold on. Let me do that.
Let me think. You can think of a better example, though.
Here we go. Let's see. Put this in.
It's kind of neat. I would have just want to speak into my phone. Tweet.
Tweet.
Here I am with Foz, period.
All right, here we go.
I just want to talk. I don't want to go through procedures and thinking. All that left brain stuff, that was the old days.
There we go, look. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. There we go. We've got time. I know we've got a lot of tweets coming in from people here, but I mean, everybody here has been so patient. If one question to everybody, and then we want to open it up for questions. If Steve Wozniak were to run for office, do you think he would win? Show hands. That's pretty good.
Pretty good. I would think, even if you're for it, I wouldn't think I'd win.
Any questions here? Let's open it up. Who's got questions? Raise your hand. We've got, there's a gentleman right there. I think he was sitting next to Superman, so be careful.
Thank you very much. Although I'm not going to jump right now. So a question I would like to have for you. At the very beginning of this interview, you said that you didn't have broadband at home. So I was wondering, if you had the opportunity, would you sign up for Google Fiber?
Oh yes, absolutely. Absolutely. As a matter of fact, my wife is from Kansas City, from the Kansas area, and I wish I were there just for Google Fiber. I wish I were a lot of places in the world just for Google Fiber, but I am where I am. The coast of California is a nice place to live. I'm happy enough, and I missed out on one aspect of the experiences of today's internet. I do have a semi-broadband, just not real broadband, where I can order a movie from iTunes and watch it download. Sometimes I have to wait 13 hours to watch the movie the next day.
Thank you very much.
That's unbelievable.
I know. And even the cellular LTE gave me broadband at first up to 7 megabits where I live, and now it's always usually down to 1. So even LTE at my home. Wrong house.
Anybody else? How about someone over here? How about this lady right
And my
here?
city is the same city Netflix is in.
How about this? Do we have a microphone over here? Yeah, let this. There we go.
Los Gatos, California, where Atari started the arcade industry and where the pet rock was invented.
The pet rock, yeah.
Los Gatos, California.
Okay, good.
Okay, I have a question on the culture within a company. Do you think hierarchical culture will be good for an innovative company?
Hierarchical?
I know.
You know what? I'm not really very much a manager. When we started Apple, I said, I will not run a company. I will be an engineer. I will be the bottom of the org chart. I do not want to be involved in the politics of running a company. And so I hated it when the management got hierarchical, and it slowed things down so much. I like the days when I'm like an inventor, wants to run the laboratory and build the whole thing themselves. You know, design it, draft it, hook up the chips, solder the wires, test it, put the software as well as the hardware. I just want to do the whole thing. And thereby, I skipped all the hierarchy and different division of responsibilities. And a manager would come in and, oh my gosh, engineers would have to spend a long time writing a 40-page report of what they would do. And then as they were developing it, if they got a great idea for something they hadn't thought of, oh, it would have to be a rewrite, re-inclusion, and it was so difficult to move freely. So, no, I don't really like that. And as a matter of fact, a lot of companies, some of their best stuff comes out of secret little projects. You might call them skunk works. Steve Jobs at Apple was famous for this, you know, and Apple still is, you know, just little people, engineers working on their own, not being judged by everybody every instant of the day, and not having a firm schedule and quotas and things like that to hit.
How about this gentleman right here in the front? Can we get a microphone? Yeah, there we go.
Although you do need some of that. You do need some of that to survive and guarantee to the owners that that's something.
Besides Apple, what is the most fascinating technology for you right now, which amazes you at the moment?
Wow. Obviously, Siri existed before Apple bought Siri. Recognition, being able to answer questions like a human being, mobile products that seem to be like a human being. Siri on the iPhone works the best so far, although Google Voice sometimes can understand things better because of what people are searching for is better key and relevance. Robotics, I'm looking forward to robotics getting low enough cost that hobbyists and experimenters at home can build them like they used to build computers. And I would, for example, we've got the little Roomba that runs around cleaning your, you know, vacuuming your floor. I would love a little robot that sits outside in the driveway all night long, 1 square centimeter at a time. It washes my car while I sleep. I'm waiting for that one at an affordable price. Got to be an affordable price.
Well, you know, you talk about robots and artificial intelligence. Do you think we're ever going to see a time, let's say in our lifetime, in the next 30 years, 40 years, where machines actually develop a level of consciousness where we are no longer the most intelligent beings on the planet?
I said no my whole life. And when Ray Kurzweil wrote his book, Singularity, I disagreed with it. We don't know how the brain is wired. We cannot create a brain. First program I wrote in my life was the Knight's Tour of Chess, where a knight piece hits every square on a chessboard exactly 1 time. And nothing came out, nothing came out. This computer could do 1 million things a second. It's trying all the possibilities. It didn't have a solution. I calculated the solution would come in 10 to the 25th years. That means that a fast computer, 1 billion times faster, 1 trillion times faster, isn't going to matter a bit. You need the intuition of a human mind to decide how to solve problems. Have we replaced any of the brain yet with computers? Well, you used to ask a smart person a question about the world. Now who do you ask? It starts with G-O and it's not God. So you ask Google and you get back tons more answers than a smart person would give. And sometimes if you get a smartphone, you're sitting somewhere, sometimes even if smart people are around, you'll ask Google because you're going to get more complete answers. So we have replaced a part of the brain. Did we invent the internet to be a brain? Did we ever think out in the future the internet's going to replace a brain? No, it happened by accident. So I started thinking, I've thought about Ray Kurzweil and how he predicts when computing technology that you can hold in your hand is going to be able to process as much information as fast as the brain does. And it's about 20 years from now, by his estimates. His methods of looking at exponential curves is a correct mathematical approach. You see nothing happening until it happens, and then you act like, oh, it was obvious. But a lot of people are, you know, a lot of people don't see if it is. Now, what I like to say is it's going to happen. Computers are going to get conscious, but it's going to be 20 to 100 years. And the 100 years buys me. I can never be judged. But, and I believe they're going to get conscious. We don't know how, we don't know the formula. They're going to act like they have feelings about us. It's going to become your best friend, your hand. It's got enough senses already, and you can speak it here. It'll be looking for you wherever you go. It'll tell you to look right because there's a pretty girl, and look left because there's a bookstore.
So you think it's going to be benevolent? You think it's going to be our friend? But why should it be our friend?
Well, because at first we're going to be the gods who created it. And second, we created it to take care of us, so we're going to be the family pet. But a well taken care of dog that eats filet mignon every night. That's my belief.
You really believe that?
Yeah, I don't think we're going to be ants that it steps on.
You don't think it's going to be like the Terminator?
Unfortunately. What I'm worried about, here's what I'm worried about. You know, I don't like to be that much in the future because I'm an engineer and I know what we can build today. We don't know how to build this, but yeah, what if it was smarter than a human being? And what if the best financial decisions for a company came from a computer and not from a human? And what if skipping the slow humans made a company even more profitable? We're already seeing lots of that.
Any other questions? How about right over here? Get the microphone to you.
Hi, you said that one of your key themes is around education and mentoring. What do you see in the role of technology going forward for the next few years around education and the massive online courses and the like?
I don't think that technology has changed education very much because our method of education, classes of 30 students, studying the same pages in the book every week, having the test on Friday, I don't think we haven't changed the way education works. We've just put in the computer as the modern book and the modern teacher. And maybe it's a little more interesting, but it hasn't really changed it. So I think, is there anything that could change it? I don't want to say the same sort of things people have said for 200 years about finding those exceptional teachers that care, that can make class interesting, that can assign goals as projects. You know, people say that all the time, and education hasn't improved in 200 years. So it has to be something very new we haven't thought of yet. And the one thing that I clue on is when computers get conscious and become your best friend, the student will be totally trusting his friend as a teacher. And now we can have one very low-cost teacher per student. One teacher per student can never fail. Let the students go in their own directions, at their own speeds, correct every problem they have on the way, but they've got to want it. They want some guidance that's like a human, but our machines, our computers today are not like humans. Some kids can just learn everything on the internet. I would have been one of them, but we're not really at that point yet. You still want some feeling. I'm dealing with a friend and I've got a reason to want to go in this direction. And if I get interested in computers study or mathematics or literature, I could just work on that one subject all day long and go much farther than school would let me go. I think that I'm hoping that happens in the future so that I can say that I had a little part in helping education improve.
How about over here, this side right here? There's a hand. Yep, this lady right here.
Hello, my name is Cécile Delettré. I'm from France. International school in Hanover is an Apple school. So the children are fun with Apple, but the problem with education with Apple, they play a lot. So they become internet addicts and gamers, and they don't work. So do you have a solution for that?
I hear that a lot, and I've heard that same comment for the last 40 years. You know, ever since the start of personal computers. Oh my gosh, the kids get so intrigued by this new machine. It's like they're addicted to it. They aren't going to face normal humans when the internet came. They're doing all their stuff inside their own room and they're not talking to real humans. This is just the modern world. They're socializing more on the social networks and being anonymous. The shy person who could never talk to a human in real life, like the way I grew up, now have ways to be anonymous in chat rooms and socialize a lot more. Yes, they're just playing games and their whole life's going into games. That's probably not a healthy balance. So there's some rule for parental oversight, but I don't see a lot of games being that bad. I think that's just a part of something you go through when you're young. I look back when I was young, gosh, there was one summer I remember, and about all I did the whole summer was play solitaire, a whole ton of types of games of solitaire. and I don't feel that it held me back. And also, it's one of those big, huge things as technology changes that we have these new abilities to work in different ways, and the young people grow up differently than the old people. It's one of those big steamrollers you can't stop, so just get out of the way.
There was a question right there with the microphone already. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Laurent from the French startup Jogging. I have a question. 1 month ago, you said that Apple should produce some iPhone working on Android. Do you really mean it?
I did not say such a thing. Press misquotes me all the time. As I was answering a question about BlackBerry, and I pointed out that BlackBerry could have made an Android phone, and then I said, Apple could make an Android phone. As an aside, they could. It's an interesting technical discussion. I did not say Apple should. Every article tended to say Wozniak said Apple should. And no, they can. In other words, there's no technical limitation. And I'm sure I also made comments that weren't reported that, yeah, Apple has people inside that would know the trade-offs, you know, very well to handle that sort of thinking. So sorry you read what everybody read. That's not quite it.
What about this notion of interoperability? You know, like if I want to update my iCalendar or my iTunes, and I have to do it over the cloud, I have to do it with the iCloud.
Yes, Apple tries to keep you in their own ecosystem.
Why can't you change that?
I wish it were more open, because I look back to some of our big successes. The Apple II computer was all of our revenues for the first 10 years. Unbelievably open computer. All the hardware diagrams, the software, you could modify things, add things, change them if you were technically inclined. You could develop your own products that plugged into it. Now though, we have a lot of apps, so everything's gone to software, and it's largely due to Steve Jobs was not a technical person. Well, I forget what I was going to get to.
No, I'm trying to get you to tell me why you can't get Apple to open up so that we have interoperability.
Okay, when did Apple stock? Apple stock, we had some downs and ups, but it was about the same as our first product, the Apple II. The valuation of the company was about the same. Steve Jobs left. Steve Jobs came back. It was the same for years, and it didn't double until we finally had a great hit product, the iPod. The iPod worked with iTunes, the best music program that had ever been done. And luckily it was on a Macintosh. But did we say you have to have a Macintosh to own an iPod? As soon as we saw this great product, we wrote iTunes for Windows. We went open. We opened it up to the whole world, and we sold iPods to everybody in the world, and the stock value doubled forever. We were now a music company and a computer company. Do we write iTunes for Android phones? No. My feeling is we should, but I don't know all the facts, but I'm guessing that Apple should, this is not saying could, this is saying should write iTunes for Android and treat their music business as a separate business unit and sell the music to everybody in the world the iTunes way for their iPods, because we really changed the world in that way. Why did we close it up and say it's a force, we're trying to force you into an iPhone? I don't like that pushing and trying to force people to not have choices. I try to say, do the great products and attract them like a pull method. Yeah, do I see Apple? Apple can't change hugely. Like with the Android phone, Apple's value is largely in a specialness of the brand and how well they protect their customers and things like that. And boy, to go off in the Android world, have an Android division playing the Android games of you know, very much openness to the world, it might spoil the whole image of Apple as the custom high-end, almost like jewelry company.
So at the end of the day, though, it's about control.
I don't like the fact that it is partly about control. Yeah, I don't like that part. But it also delivers a better user experience, and I do like that.
So you think the Apple user would actually suffer if there were open...
No, the Apple brand.
The brand.
The image of the brand. We just passed a Coca-Cola to be #1 brand in the world.
So this is about control of money, then. It's not about
the brand. Yeah, the brand doesn't mean putting out, you know, lower class products that anybody can write software for and make it their own way. The brand is partly around the control of the user experience.
At the end of the day, what do you think is more important in the company? Shareholders or the users?
I go with the users, but nobody else in the company, nobody rightfully should. Yeah, it should always be. Unfortunately, it has to be a company has to make money, or it goes out of business. And the right decisions are the ones that look at our government, how many trillions and tens of trillions of dollars in debt they are, and Apple's got 200 billion in the bank account. You know.
Yeah, maybe
I wish countries were run like companies. Here's what we're going to spend on this war. Oh, and here's what it's worth. Oh, it doesn't add up. ROI is wrong.
Yeah. So if Obama called you and said, "Can we get a loan?" Would you say yes? Jeez. Okay. One more question. We got time for one more question. All right, this lady back here, she's waiting right here. See the lady? No?
Way back.
Well, way back. She's been really patient. Yeah, right there.
It's hard for the ones in the back to get as much attention.
Yeah.
I'm glad she saw that, Brent.
Yeah, she's been patient.
Fairness.
Thank you very much. So my question is, when I just started to use Macintosh, I was amazed by phonetical typing. Yeah, so when you need to type something in Russian, phonetical is just perfect. But I miss very much swipe typing in Apple products at the moment. It is in Samsung, it is in other devices, but Apple, somehow, not yet. Are we going to have it?
I can't say whether we're going to have it. I like swipe very much. Use it on my Samsung products. It is really neat to show other people and to use. Features like that. You'll find a bunch of features on a Samsung phone that aren't on an iPhone. You'll find a bunch of features on an HTC, maybe infrared remote control, and you won't find it on the iPhone. But you'll find features on an iPhone that aren't on those. I don't think people choose their phones anymore because of features. I don't think it's all critical. You're speaking about a different language. You're in more of a special category, a niche category for the Russian. I would probably not expect swipe because swipe has been around for a lot of years. A lot of people like it. Why doesn't Apple do it? I don't know. Do they have to pay a license fee? I don't know. It just seems so simple to allow that. But Apple keeps their products. One good thing about the iPhone, for those masses of people that don't want to be technical, you don't have. That's one less option you have. One less thing you have to teach people that's not so obvious to the very simple person. So keeping the product simple is equivalent to keeping it easy to use.
I think we have time for one more. You get to choose,
Right.
Steve.
One more?
One more, yeah.
Well, way over there, there's somebody. Wave your hand and I'll tell you if you're the right one. Yeah, I see a hand waving. Straight there, yeah, that's the hand, that's the one.
Steve, thank you very much. My name is Sergio, I'm from Chile, all the way here to CeBIT. Very happy with it. Thank you for coming here. I would like to ask you, we've read a lot of autobiographies or biographies of different people, very famous people in Apple. Recently we had one from Tim Cook and his work. When are we gonna have yours?
My autobiography? Well, you've got a memoir called I Was that I didn't write it until my youngest child had finally graduated from high school, and he left to college, and finally I was all alone. I started saying yes to things. I finally wrote that book. It's an interesting one. There's a lot more to write, but you know what? I don't know. It'll have to wait till I have time for it. I feel I don't have time right now. I'm really busy, constantly traveling. There are movies being made. Those movies are kind of neat to watch too. So let's hope it. I was thinking my next book will actually be a book on the pranks I've done.
When is the movie on the pranks?
There's no movie on the pranks, but the book on the pranks I would love to write, but you'd be shocked.
Really?
Yeah.
Listen, before we get to the computer drawing, can I ask you to come over here? We want to show you this drawing here.
Okay.
We've had this all week. This is new at the CeBIT Global Conferences. We've got this artist who basically listens to what the speakers say, and she gets inspired. What do you think about this?
This is unbelievable. As soon as I looked at it, I said, oh my gosh, this is my favorite way to learn online.
It's very 20th century though, isn't it?
Yes. Wow, you drew that online, Jesus.
Yeah.
That's quite impressive. I'm impressed. Okay, good.
time too.
Never expected that.
You know.
I gotta stay in touch.
There you go. I guess now we know what works better than a selfie.
Well, I simplified my name a long time ago to just a signature of 3 letters. You can read it.
There you go.
Wow.
Okay. Well, we've been announcing all day that we were going to do a drawing to win this baby right here. Do you kind of get postpartum depression when you give away one of these?
The Apple ones, maybe.
The Apple ones, okay.
Let's go. Yeah.
All right, let's go. All right, where Nicole? Do we have the pot with all the tickets in it? Do we have those? Hello.
Well, I'm supposed to draw one.
Ah, here they come. Here they come. Here they come. Oh, that's right. We had the video, right? We had the video. Oh, it's what's in it. Okay. All right. So, first of all, do you want to sign it now, or do you want to sign it when the winner comes up to get it? You want to do that when the winner comes up to get it? Okay. All right. So, these are all the tickets we've sold in the last couple of hours. All right, ready? I wish we had a drum.
My mom taught me always crunch up your little business cards.
Right. I wish we had a drum roll. Isn't there an app for that? Go ahead.
Yes.
All right.
You gotta find it out of 100,000 apps.
That's right.
It's blue, I'll tell you that much. You know what color yours is?
It's me.
Number 131.
131.
131.
131. Going once, going twice.
Yay!
There we go. Do you work for the company? Just kidding.
Should have just pulled her. Okay, let me see that. I was going to make a joke, but you can't make too many jokes about 131. If it was 123, I was going to say, oh no, that's 321. All righty.
Okay.
First of all,
There you go.
I hope you have
What's your name?
to carry this phone.
And this is Astrid, by the way, Steve. This is Astrid.
There you go, Astrid. Yes.
Let's give her a... Our last session for the day. Steve, thank you very much. It was great having you on.